fucking dead. Oh boy, Disney is under so much fire, you'd swear to God that California was in better shape. While it would be easy and a whole lot of fun to throw shade at this company that's been under a lot of controversy for the last year or so, I wanted to bring this down to a likely unpopular opinion regarding one very specific controversy. Mulan star Liu Yifei and her support of the Chinese government and the brutal police tactics used against pro-democracy protesters. My opinion being, it might behoove us to cut her a little bit of a break. Let's start at the beginning in case you're not aware. In August of 2019, Miss Yifei retweeted a post that said, "I support Hong Kong's police. You can beat me up now. What a shame for Hong Kong." As things do on the internet, it went viral and sparked a whole lot of controversy. Not just here in the United States, but all over the world. And the trending hashtag Boycott Mulan steamrolled through social media like a bullet through wet tissue. Like many at the time, I was quite disappointed in Miss Yifei. Not that I was planning on supporting the live-action Mulan remake anyway, a decision I made long before coronavirus became a problem. Miss Yifei did what she did, and the world made up its mind about Mulan. Except fast forward to today, the present day me. So I found this article on medium.com, written by Roxu, hopefully I pronounced that right, titled, "Before You Boycott Mulan, Consider the Context." Now, I can't claim to know if Medium is a respected source for information, or if Sue is a respected writer, but I was curious to see what this article had to say. It reads, "Disney just released its live-action remake of Mulan, but perhaps your excitement has already been tainted. Boycott Mulan is trending, and a quick Google search returns a number of articles corroborating the same fact. Lead actress Liu Yifei proudly supports the brutal tactics of Hong Kong police and the Chinese Communist Party. Before you retweet, please consider the context." There we go. There's the title. Here is part of it as presented by CNN. "I support the Hong Kong police. You can all attack me now. What a shame for Hong Kong." She posted on Weibo, a Twitter-like Chinese social media platform. Joshua Wong, a pro-Hong Kong activist and one of the leaders of the hashtag Boycott Mulan initiative, retweeted this CNN article and states that Liu Yifei openly and proudly endorses police brutality in Hong Kong. This version of events is echoed by practically every major Western news outlet. In bold, it is also inaccurate and incomplete. We can see that she's actually retweeting a post from People's Daily, the largest news outlet in mainland China. Most Western news articles seem to omit this detail in their reporting. As an addendum to the retweet, she has added the hashtag, which translates to, "I also support the Hong Kong police." What most Western articles also omit is that the original post by People's Daily is itself a quote from reporter Fu Guohao, sorry if I mispronounced that, who was assaulted and detained by protesters at Hong Kong International Airport on August 13th, 2019, the day before Liu Yifei retweeted these words. On this day, protesters grabbed a 23-year-old Chinese man named Zhu, accusing him of being an undercover police officer. With no evidence, they detained him, and a number of protesters punched and kicked him until he was unconscious, some continuing to do so afterwards. He was detained for over 4 hours before security and paramedics finally got past the mob and carried Zhu out on a stretcher. Fu Guohao was the second man to be detained. In a video that would later go viral in China, he is heard saying, "I support the Hong Kong police. You can beat me up now." End quote. He soon ended up in the hospital as well, and People's Daily jumped on the propaganda opportunity and quoted these words. This post was then reposted over 8.7 million times, and one of these reposts was from Liu Yifei. I am in no way suggesting that these isolated incidents of violence invalidate the protests at large. The vast majority of protesters were peaceful, and the police did and do engage in brutal tactics that must be condemned. Let us consider, however, how such an incident realistically plays out in mainland China. People's Daily is not just the largest state-run media outlet. It is the largest media outlet, period. Most other major media outlets are state-run too, and the ones that aren't are still heavily regulated by the CCP. In the US, you get to go on Twitter, type something snarky, @RealDonaldTrump, add a trending hashtag, and go to sleep feeling good about yourself because your tweet went viral and you're now certified woke. That's not how China works. Imagine for a moment what the Black Lives Matter movement might look like in the Chinese system. Every major news network is a more biased version of Fox News. Jesus Christ. Constantly circulating videos of protesters burning buildings, smashing windows, and looting stores. All posts with hashtag Black Lives Matter are immediately deleted. You voice a dissenting opinion, and instead of being woke, you are woken up by policemen at your door. LeBron James shows support for the protesters, and instead of being told to shut up and dribble, he just disappears. Maybe 6 months later, he reappears in a press conference wearing a MAGA hat. Maybe he swears that Donald Trump has done more for black people than Martin Luther King. Maybe he never comes back at all. Welcome to China, and welcome to the reality that someone like Liu Yifei must navigate under constant scrutiny of the Chinese Communist Party because of her massive popularity and following. She has 67 million followers on Weibo. If you truly support freedom of speech and press, you must inherently acknowledge how the absence of such freedoms can and will twist public opinion. The Chinese government has meticulously crafted a system of surveillance, censorship, and propaganda, ensuring that when news reaches the eyes and ears of Chinese people, it has already been vetted to stoke support for the CCP. Is it that surprising that Liu Yifei, one of over 1 billion victims in this system of misinformation, would echo support for a man beaten by violent protesters? Can we even be sure she means what she says? For the CCP, Liu Yifei's visibility and platform make her a perfect target to coerce into echoing support for the crackdown. Westerners may think being cast in an American movie gives her the responsibility to speak up for democracy. Xi Jinping would think the opposite, and he can cancel her life way faster than you can cancel her movie. I do not pretend to know what Liu Yifei believes. Maybe she is every bit as pro-CCP and anti-democracy as her worst critics say. I'd love to sit down and ask her about it, but we're not on that level. You shouldn't pretend to know what she believes either. A confession at gunpoint holds no weight and should not be admissible in court. In a country with no freedom of speech and press, words on social media reveal little about a person's politics. I would not pass judgment on Liu Yifei based on her Weibo post on August 14, 2019. I would certainly not consider this post as evidence that she openly and proudly endorses police brutality. I've also done a little bit of digging on YouTube and found a video that actually kind of echoes some of these words. This is an excerpt from a video by Looper titled, "Why Are People Boycotting Disney's Live-Action Mulan?" Check it out.
Complicating things even further, there's the fact that Chinese stars are sometimes forced to publicly support government policies regardless of their personal feelings. In 2018, the nation's biggest movie star, Fan Bingbing, completely vanished without a trace for 6 months. It was later learned that she had been placed under house arrest for failure to pay taxes on her movie earnings. Upon her release, Bingbing issued a repentant propaganda statement praising the Chinese government, which raises the question of whether Mulan star Liu posted the pro-government comments of her own free will to begin with.
Celebrities like Jackie Chan and film studios are required by the Chinese government to promote core socialist values.
It's not even just Disney that does business with China. Many American corporations do business out there. Here's an excerpt from YouTuber Jim Sterling from The Jimquisition, who spoke out against video game developer Activision Blizzard and their suspension of a professional gamer at one of their tournaments, who voiced support for the protesters in Hong Kong, titled "Blizzard is Pathetic." Check it out.
So in the settled dust, it's worth remembering the core issue here. Blizzard's a fucking piece of shit. Now, of course, the vast majority of you know what this is all stemming from. Blizzard, in case you forgot, and they certainly hope you've forgotten, suspended professional Hearthstone player Blitz Chung after he spoke out in support of Hong Kong protesters on a live stream. This you know, they suspended him for a full year and withheld prize money he was owed, but after much criticism, they decided not to steal his cash and to only suspend him from pro play for 6 months, alongside 2 casters who were streaming with him at the time. The main issue with the suspension was that it appeared as if it had been done to appease China, a market from which Blizzard and many other American corporations make millions of dollars. And surely it was unreasonable to believe Blizzard acted out of a pitiful desire to please the country's authoritarian regime, considering its actions only completely fucking mirrored what dozens of other corporations have been doing specifically to please that authoritarian regime. Terrified of offending Xi Jinping's regime and getting locked out of a market worth millions and millions of dollars, an alarming number of corporations, even if indirectly, are essentially collaborating with human rights abusers. That is what you're doing. American Airlines, Apple, Disney, Gap. When you censor things in support of the pro-democracy protests, or doctor listings and imagery for Taiwan, you're a bunch of trembling fucking collaborators.
I would thank God for Jim, but on the best of days I'm agnostic, on the worst of days I'm atheist, so... But in the spirit of my love for the man, thanks. Can you do something about the assholes who don't want to wear masks? The point I've once again derailed from is that I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if China gave Disney an ultimatum. If you want us to show Mulan in our country, Liu Yifei must speak out in support of us, or you can fuck right off. To which Disney corporate mouthpieces likely brought in Miss Yifei and gave her an ultimatum of their own. Speak out in support of China, or we'll blacklist you from American films and send you back to China and let them do whatever they fucking want to do to you. I have no evidence that this conversation took place. I have no known prior incidents that would back that shit up. But I don't think there's a single level-headed person out there that would be the least bit surprised if this actually did happen in exactly that way. I mean, if Rock Sue's translation of the original Weibo post is correct, and that the post Miss Yifei retweeted was simply that, then there's likely a reason why these words aren't specifically hers. She needs to support the Chinese government in some way. Didn't matter how she did it, whether it was a half-assed retweet. So long as it was something, then it was enough for China. So long as she fluffed Jinping's ego and reminded him of his power and the power that he held over his own people, then that meant business as usual for Disney. In my Superman Man of Tomorrow review, I briefly mentioned an incident involving a rat that I found outside of where I work. Very much alive, but not doing well. I'm no expert, and couldn't tell if he was sick or injured because when he saw me, he didn't move. Or more accurately, couldn't move his hind legs. Ants were crawling all over him, and the day was predicted to be one of the hottest summer days of the year at 109 degrees. I felt bad for the thing, and it didn't feel right to leave it where it was in the condition it was. So I gave the little guy a bit of cool water to wash off the ants as best I could and put him in an unused box I had in my car as a makeshift shelter. Of course I couldn't bring him inside the restaurant, and leaving him in my car would probably have been worse with the future heat. So I had to keep him outside, in the shade and hoped for the best. I gave him a little dish of water, hoping he'd have some while I worked. I did periodically check on him throughout my shift. Surprisingly, the little guy never seemed to move much, but he was still breathing. During my 30-minute break, I even brought him into my car and blasted the air conditioning, if for no other reason than to give him a break from the heat that was definitely roasting everything. It wasn't long after I started to have hope for the little guy, as he started to perk up a little and seemed to be a bit more active. He still wasn't moving much, but certainly more than I'd seen in a while. But of course, a 30-minute break never lasts long enough, and I had to go back to work, and meant that I had to leave him outside again. I knew he wasn't in great shape, but he lasted so long, and even an hour before my shift was over, he was still alive. So I made the decision. I would bring him home, keeping him outside of course, he's still a wild rat after all, and make him comfortable for as long as I could. I had little daydreams that when I woke up the next morning, he'd be gone, feeling better and running off doing wild rat things, as if life was a minute-long episode of The Dodo. I didn't know if he would survive that long, but I wanted to try. I finished up my side work, went outside to check on the little rat, but he didn't make it. He stopped breathing. The only thing that I could think to do was to say that I was sorry for not doing more for him. By now you're probably wondering what the point was of me telling that story about the rat. I admit, it was long-winded and probably deserved its own video, or a therapy session with someone who's paid to care about my emotional state. This is my channel, and I'll talk about whatever I damn well want. This year has been a fucking travesty for everyone. And I felt like someone, fucking someone, deserved a break. And I decided that this rat, with ants crawling all over it, with only hours to live, he deserved a break. Color me in the mood to give someone else a break, but I want to give Liu Yifei a break. That's the point of this story. I want to give Liu Yifei a break. Make no mistake, I believe a boycott is in order. I believe Mulan should be boycotted, but not for anything that Miss Yifei has said, but because of filming taking place in Xinjiang, a re-education camp where millions of local people and Muslims are taken to be re-educated. Sucking China's dick for some easy cash, but until Miss Yifei comes forward and fully admits what she feels, then I'm personally going to give her, the word of the day, a break. Maybe it's misguided. Maybe there's more information out there that I missed that clearly spells out her support for the Chinese regime. If so, please leave a link in the comments so I can see where this situation is at. But I feel I have more concrete reasons to hate Disney right now. I mean it, folks. I refuse to give Disney any more of my money in the future. I'm done for shelling out for Disney products. Yes, they said that they'll make some changes in the future, but we'll see what that really means in the coming years. Want my trust? Earn it. Until then, I am thrilled to see your movies for free. Ask me if I care. But as for Liu Yifei, I won't speak ill of her. I hope in time she comes out and says that she didn't mean what she said, that both Disney and her government had her in a chokehold, and that she felt that she had no choice. If that happens, I'll stand by her 110% and continue to speak out against Disney and their loss of humanity. Where you stand on Liu Yifei, dear viewers, is where you stand. Maybe I gave you something new to think about. Maybe nothing has changed. All I know is, fuck you, Disney. I'll care more about a disease-ridden wild rat than I'll ever care about your $150 million box office loss on Mulan. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Please wear a mask if you go out. Hope to see you soon.